My happiness only came sometimes with permission from other people. My self-confidence wasn't too bad, but my self-belief was quite low.
If you were to give one piece of advice to your 25-year-old self, what would it be?
I honestly think the better you know yourself, the better you'll know other people. And the iceberg analogy is that the top bit that we can all see is what you say and do, and the hidden bit is what's important underneath, why you do all these things, your values, your beliefs, your experiences. My goal is to try and get people more comfortable in their own skin. I want them to understand who they are. I want them to be more comfortable with what they're brilliant at, and to be okay with what they're not so good at. You're really good. You're all right. You don't need everybody to love you. You just need to love yourself.
So we were talking about communication and how we impact others in part 2 of our 3-part series. So tell us what people can expect if they engage your services.
Okay. I guess it depends on what level you engage. I sometimes do open events like the thing I did yesterday at Mosaic. It was a presentation skills workshop that anyone can book into. So if you engage in an open course like that, you'll get looked after, you'll have a nice time, and we'll talk about things in a way that will help you take something of use away, something that you can apply. I just want people to be relaxed and have a nice time, because I think that's when the learning takes place. So I do those kind of events every now and again for different companies. We've done difficult conversations, as we were talking about last time. I've done presentation skills yesterday. I do stress management courses, and it's all relatable, accessible, chilled, but engaged. If you want to be engaged, if you want to get involved, you get involved as much or as little as you want. And people go away happy in the main. So that's what you can expect if you engage from a one-to-one perspective. Organisations, again, it depends on the need. Different people come to me for different reasons. My model is, like I said earlier, one of referral and recommendation. So if an organisation has been recommended, or if I've been recommended to an organisation or been referred to, they kind of know what they want and they come to me to find out if there's the right kind of fit. So they can expect me to bring 25, 35 years of kind of experience and mistakes made with the field of management and leadership, because that's what most people tend to need help with. So I'll go in and work with them, understand what their needs are.
Kind of an assessment,
yeah,
almost.
If you like, trying to get to know who they are and what they struggle with, and then I can design something that's gonna stand a better chance of meeting and helping with those needs. Some people are more transactional. You know, some people need you to come in and help them understand what they need and how they're going to do it and what they want. That's fine. Other people, you know, that's almost more consultative. Other people know that. They know what they need. They know where the gaps are. And they say, Phil, can you come in and do me a 3-day course on performance management, difficult conversations, and blah, blah, blah. So they ask me to write them or deliver that for them. But regardless whether I'm designing it and delivering it over a short or long period of time, you get the same, you get this, you get the one model. You know, people talk about authenticity, or I do. I'm desperate and passionate about honesty and authenticity and transparency. So you get this version of me sat here chatting with you. Okay, fine, I might have drunk more coffee and I've got more energy. I told you my legs ache this morning because I've been leaping around the classroom, messing about, getting people engaged and involved. But that's really important to me, and that's what I bring to my clients, that sort of passion and energy, desire, interest. Do you know what I mean? And it allows people to see that I genuinely believe what I'm talking about. I'll share my heart and soul and stories so that they can learn from the context. I'll keep the pace up, because you know what it's like doing 4, 5, 6 hours of this kind of stuff. Can sometimes people get like the graveyard slump. So there's sweets on the desk. You can always expect sweets. I'll provide sweets for you. You know, and it's just that energy and passion that I'll bring into the classroom that I sometimes find lacking. I guess you like many of us have seen examples of this that work really well for you, and then examples that don't. You know, there are lots of people doing the same stuff, but the only thing that makes us unique is us. So yeah, you get this whether you want it or not.
I was just thinking that really what you're doing is a manifestation almost of what we were talking about in the previous episodes, where you're bringing that energy, you're bringing yourself, connecting with the people that you're talking with.
Yeah.
And we were kind of talking about that throughout, that the importance of the people that you're talking to, you know, they're working within a team, and the importance of them connecting with each other, and understanding each other, and being able to have that open communication, and being honest with each other. So I was just thinking that what you're doing is actually modelling what you're actually recommending that teams do. And finding each other's strengths. How important is it for teams to understand each other and connect with each other in that authentic way?
I think it's vital if you're going to have a successful team. Again, let's be really clear. What's the definition of success? For me and for many organisations, the definition of a successful team is one that's productive, efficient, long-lasting, and makes people happy, you know, gives you an outcome. So you've got two types of teams. There's a bunch of people who are operating independently in conflict with one another, bashing against each other. And then you've got the other team that understands one another's strengths and weaknesses, who's good at what. A lot of people think that the management and leadership stuff is about trying to get the best, kind of be brilliant at everything. And I don't believe that's the key for success. There's a profile that we all have, and we're all spiky, we're all different. So, you know, if you are absolutely clear about what you are, and you transmit that truth because you're more confident in your own skin and you don't mind sharing your strengths and weaknesses, warts and all, if you're transmitting your truth, you're much more likely to have an effective fit. If you're trying to fake it, or if you're trying to make yourself into something that you think somebody else wants, you're going to have these awkward, you know, clashes. Again, analogy, or another story, another analogy, but it's icebergs for me. We're all icebergs. All the individuals in a team are icebergs, and we're all in a really cramped pond. And the iceberg analogy is that the top bit that we can all see is what you say and do. And the hidden bit is what's important underneath, why you do all these things, your values, your beliefs, your experiences. And if we lowered the water a little bit better, then you would reduce the possibility of us clashing unintentionally. You know, you'd navigate around one another more effectively. You'd be a little bit more thoughtful and sensitive to, oh, that person's gone through this, so this is how I'll engage with him or her in a slightly more effective way. Do you know what I mean? And
it requires vulnerability, is what you're talking about there, isn't it?
Yeah.
Where we can show our so-called weaknesses, you know, which I don't like to term it that way, because
me neither.
If we, you know, it's irrelevant really.
Yeah.
That's not us.
It's strength and risk.
Yeah.
In my terminology.
Focus on the strengths.
Yeah.
I'm thinking of Tuckman's theory. Have you heard of that?
Yeah.
Where it's about identifying,
Yeah.
right, you're good at that, you're good at that, you're good at that.
Yeah.
Between us all,
exactly,
we can make it happen.
Yeah.
And it, you know, you're not good at that, don't worry about it. We've got matey boy over here that's great at that. So
I think the better aware you are of you and your shape and your profile, the more effectively you will be able to understand other people. So the Tuckman terminology, everyone goes through the storming, you know, norming and performing, all that kind of stuff. Everyone will go through a bit of storming, but you can speed up how quickly you get through that phase. Because definition of success, like we said earlier, is more normally around things like being productive, effective, efficient, and all that kind of stuff. And there's a graph where you dip. Those levels of activity will dip whilst you're dealing with conflict. So whilst we can accept that that's normal, you can minimize it. So it's a shallow dip, and it's a shorter period that you spend in that difficult period. There's almost like an underlying theme of all the work that I do. It's kind of self-analysis, but some people find that quite scary. and are sometimes worried about it. So call it management leadership. Understand yourself, understand other people. And people are like, okay, fine. And in that, we do a lot of self-analysis, a lot of self-assessment, a lot of thinking about our impact on others. Because I honestly think the better you know yourself, the better you'll know other people. So yeah, it's really important, I think, for teams to understand one another. Like you say, you've got to understand the risks, but I don't like calling it a weakness either. Understanding what we can all do really well and understanding those things that we're not so good at will create a more effective and efficient team who can operate far more effectively than 5 experts working independently.
What I've heard throughout all 3 parts of this series is that it's almost a foundation, the self-awareness, the introspection, the right, that upset me today. What's that about? Why did that upset me? Or that made my heart sing. That excites me. What is that about? So we really get to know ourselves. And also how we impact others as well, and what impacts us, and that's kind of the foundation, is what I've heard you say, that
it's no accident that the start of nearly everything I do is normally the reflective practitioner model, the Gibbs learning cycle, where something happens, you have a reaction to it, then you can go away and think about it, and then you can plan for it and perhaps put something in place that will help you move forward. And once we've discussed that and got people thinking about it, because like you say, that's the start of everything I do, getting people a little bit more aware and open to new possibilities, but actually honing in on the fact that there's a sub-cycle version of that process, in as much as often something happens, you have a reaction to it. If you're not in the right mindset, you stay there and you cycle between those two things. Oh, she said this and it really made me, and you go home chewing your mouth off and you're really annoyed and frustrated, a bit like what we were talking about in one of the other sessions. How long is that going to keep you in the bad place? So awareness of the fact that there is another step to that cycle. There is a step beyond just being in the moment and thinking about it and analysing it. Again, another one of those processes that helps some people recognise what's happening, encourage monkey brain to the back seat, and the evolved you think about it and consider it and wonder. So yeah, that model's, that's exactly it. Understand yourself. That appears at the start of everything.
Something that we've spoken about before on the podcast as well, alongside that self-awareness, how we speak to ourselves. It's hugely important, isn't it? Because how we speak to ourselves and how we perceive ourselves will impact how we relate to others. And how we, because if we are feeling not good enough or doubting ourselves or feeling whatever it is, beaten down, we're more likely to defend. We're more likely to try and we don't want to feel that, do we? That inadequacy or whatever it is.
Yeah, the old adage around know yourself, know other people. We were chatting earlier about how can people take that forward. I think that my goal is to try and get people more comfortable in their own skin. I want them to understand who they are. I want them to be more comfortable with what they're brilliant at and to be okay with not what they're not so good at. If there's a hole in the ground, if you don't look at it and check it, you'll fall in it. So it's healthy to be able to see where your risks are, to see where your gaps are, because then you can mitigate for them. And if you don't do any of these things, you will constantly be in that position where you're feeling threatened or attacked and you'll respond in your childlike way to that person, or you'll just run away, and people will often say, well, how do you deal with it when a manager tells you that you're not doing this right and not the other? That model we talked about earlier, the effective feedback model, being able to use that to respond in a constructive way, to be able to feel confident enough to respond to that person's criticism in a constructive adult way, all that comes from your level of self-confidence, your confidence in your own skin, your belief in your belief in your skills. as a young training manager, we had this guy who came in and he was responsible for the whole thing, and we did all these presentations, and cocksure, stupid young me stood up and went, well, I do this, that, and the other, and I thought it was great. And he just cut me down in flames, and I felt really stupid and diminished and cross and upset. And it took me years to figure out how to deal with him, because that stuck with me for years. Every time he would say something, I'd feel really defensive. The older I get, the more comfortable I become in my own skin. I look back and I think, I wonder how I deal with it now. And it would be, you have an opinion, you have a real strong drive of how you think it should be done. What's the terms of success? What's the outcome that's required? Here they are. How do I do it differently to you, but we have the same outcomes? So do you know what I mean? You can have a reasonable conversation as opposed to going, what do you know, when you go home sulking and crying and getting upset about it.
Black and white thinking.
Yeah.
My way is the only way.
Yeah.
When, it's very rarely true. I mean, the other thing that I was thinking when you were talking was culturally and social media, there's very much a theme of individuality, and there's a vulnerability for us to need each other.
Yeah.
And, it's all about our success and, what's going to be the next career goal. And for me, there's just an individuality theme to that. Whereas when you were talking, the importance of recognising our so-called weaknesses become irrelevant if we have an attitude of, well, actually, we work better together, and we're supposed to. That's how we're built. We're supposed to be a part of and have a sense of belonging. When we work in that way, it doesn't matter that we don't have all the strengths. Whereas I think there's an attitude of we've got to forge forward on our own. Yeah. And there's a vulnerability to needing each other, I think is what I was thinking about when you were talking.
Yeah, there's a really interesting video, it's all over YouTube. Simon Sinek does a lot of interesting stuff, and I kind of translate one of his theories into classroom stuff, because he's got an approach where he measures productivity on one angle and trust-based relationships on the other. So if you've got high productivity and high trust, you're top right. If you're low trust and low productivity, you're down here, or low outcome. And the concept is the best people in your organisation have got lots of output, but they're also got really good relationships with other people. And he said, who are the best in your organisation? They are there. But he went to one company and said, right, okay, so if you're sending your team onto really important missions or doing really important tasks and targets, which you pick, obviously them. But if you've run out of them, where do you go next? And everyone thinks he's going to go to the bit where everyone's really effective and they're successful. But actually it's not. It's where people have got less success, but they've got relationships. Because as a team, you've got everything you need to meet that need or fix that problem. Whereas up here, if there's somebody who is, really successful, but at the cost of no relationships whatsoever, they're often considered the toxic people within an organisation, because they've got success by trampling all over everybody else. And the heartbreaking element of this, as he himself says, and I think he's absolutely right, is that business as an organisation have dozens of measures of success with regard to productivity, effectivity, money earned, income generated, numbers, units, whatever, KPIs. They're all along here. There's next to nothing in many places that look at the importance of the relationship, the importance of understanding yourself and other people. So what is an employee in one of these organisations going to look at for their definition of success in the absence of anything else? All this. Well, it's just about how much money you earn here, or it's about how many of these you make. So they therefore model that, because where do we look for inspiration if not upwards when we're in an organisation? If your desire is to succeed, if your desire is to progress, you look up at what the people are doing and saying and how they're acting. And unless you're lucky enough to work in a company where they've recognised the value of this, that's the only bit they measure. That's what you focus on. That's what you hone in on. Yeah. So,
and it's empty, isn't it? We're going to talk about your version of happiness and, the picture of success. Yeah, that's really interesting what you're saying there, because without relationships, things are pretty empty, really, aren't they? And meaningless.
I think so. I mean, it's difficult to say what other people's definitions of success are or should be. You know, that would be naive to assume that I know everybody's or would tell everybody what their answers are. But it's a bit like those people that pester you on LinkedIn saying, I'll get you to earn a 6-figure salary, as if that's what I define as success, or I'll get you hundreds of referrals. I don't want hundreds. I really don't want hundreds of referrals. I want to work with the right people, not everybody. So my definition of success, my ingredients for happiness has come from knowing who I am and knowing what makes me happy, knowing what drives me and what charges those batteries that we talked about earlier. I created this business, the business of Lantern, to allow me to do what I'm really good at and what makes me really happy and what allows me to meet my primary driver, which is to help people, you know, right or wrong. And it can be a weakness, but that desire to help and support other people is the biggest thing, because it gives me the biggest kick. It's not entirely altruistic. I get a kick and it makes me feel good about myself. But happiness for me is to be able to do what I love and be passionate about it and know that that's helped somebody. That's lovely. That helps me sleep at night. If I can use all my batteries and go home tired doing something that's made me really happy. And on a slide, I've got a little picture of the world. And I usually finish off by explaining who I am, because it's a bit important to make sure people understand who's talking to them in a classroom. There's a globe, and I say, you know, I've got this tiny and insignificant goal, which is to change the world. And I'm like, okay, you can say it's unachievable, but we can all do it. We can all do it together. If I can help you make life easier for yourself and for the people with whom you live and work, that cascade effect will ripple, you know. So that's my goal, just to try and make life better and easier for other people whilst being happy. To go home and I can hide in my little man cave when I'm tired, or I can spend some time with my friends when I need social, or I can spend time with my wife and daughter when I want family. Happy bunny. That's what happiness looks like for me.
I love that. And what's so exciting about what you were talking about there is, wherever I turn at the moment, you know, when the universe is conspiring, I don't know if you subscribe to that, but I'm a big believer in the next right thing to do. And you just start to get prompts everywhere. And at the moment, what I'm seeing everywhere is, I've just bought a book by Brené Brown called Dare to Lead, and Simon Sinek as well. And just all kinds of different things from different angles. And it's about world leadership, but leading with kindness and compassion and humanity.
Yeah.
I believe, and it's just, the thing that excites me through that was this little global image, because to me it feels like there's a global movement. It really feels that way. That there are some leaders all over the world that are working on this. Yeah. And I feel like I'm going to be a part of it.
Yeah.
And
there's a movement, isn't there? Yeah. There's an initiative. I often toyed with the concept of TED Talks and stuff. I like watching other people's, and I thought, I wondered if that's something I'd like to do one day. And I thought, what have you got to say? What would you say? You know, if you've got 10 minutes and you're trying to succinctly give a message that represents something really important to you, what would you say? It's an interesting question to get groups talking. And I sat there and I thought, do you know what I'd do? I'd really want to disrupt. I don't mean be noisy and offensive or whatever, but disrupt the mindset by going in and going, I do not subscribe to this crap about, you know, how much money you're earning defining your success. There's a new currency, and it's well-being, it's help, it's compassion, it's what will help you and help other people, you know, to actually be able to go out and say, maybe, just maybe, we start thinking about other people and not ourselves. Maybe it's about doing good things without being cheesy about it, putting good things out there. The whole world concept, normally I finish it off with the concept of the ripples. I think a smile can travel. You know, when you're walking down the street, and I noticed this in lockdown, when you are going out for your allotted 10-minute exercise walk, people were so pleased to see one another. You go out for your walk and people would say hello and they'd smile. And then as time's gone by, we've fallen back into the apathy of doldrums trudging along head down. When I'm in a really good mood and I'm bouncy and buoyant, I'll walk through and you smile. Not in a creepy way that people go, who the hell's that? But, you know, you can share that smile with somebody and they'll respond and they'll take it and they'll share it with somebody else. And I think you can have a real big ripple effect. And yeah, it does warm the heart when you come across other people with that same passion, because there are so many of the alternatives with limelight. You know, there are so many definitions of the alternative approach. You know, there are so many young people emulating these loud, noisy, sometimes aggressive versions of success by showing it's all about wealth, it's all about preening, it's all about pretending, and it's like, that breaks my heart. It's like, that's everything contrary to what I believe in about transparency and authenticity. Don't try and copy that. That's not a genuine.
And, you know, in earlier, right at the beginning of our conversation in part one, you talked about a photograph of you when you were in that place of being a bit broken, really. You know, certainly beaten down. And when we nurture ourselves and nurture each other and connect with each other, there's a whole different picture. We look different. And what we bring to the world is different.
Yeah.
If you were to give one piece of advice to your 25-year-old self, what would it be?
Stop eating chocolate. Because the 50-year-old you is going to deal with the consequences. No, I think I was too interested, as many of us are, too focused on what other people said and thought. My happiness only came sometimes with permission from other people. My self-confidence wasn't too bad, but my self-belief was quite low. You know, you don't have to have everybody around you tell you. You don't need external gratification. You don't need external validation. So I think there's something around, you know, telling that version of me that you're really good. You're all right. You don't need everybody to love you. You just need to love yourself.
That's amazing.
It's the journey, isn't it?
Yeah.
Somebody once said to me, that guy who I told you about who's coaching me, he said to me once, you need to understand where the barriers are. And I'm like, I don't get what you're talking about. And we talked and he said, there it is. And he saw something in my eye when I was thinking about how I used to think about myself. And he's like, that's it. And I'm like, oh shit, that feels really scary. I don't want to talk about it. He's like, you don't have to. But now you know. Now you know what you need to think about. So going and building self-confidence is a bit of a throwaway statement. Self-belief, self-efficacy, self-love, you know, they're all things that mean different things to different people. But if I understood that earlier, I think I could be where I wanted to be earlier in the process.
Everything else changes when we start to view ourselves different and speak to ourselves differently. Everything changes, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does.
What a fascinating conversation. I've absolutely loved our conversation today. You know, I'm excited. I'm excited about the movement. I do feel there's going to be a global, and there is a global movement in leadership with more compassion, more kindness, and I'm really excited about it.
Yeah.
If people want to get in touch, where can they find you? What's the best way to get hold of you?
I suppose the easiest thing, if you're in commercial settings or industrials, I'm kind of quite active on LinkedIn. You can find me on LinkedIn by either looking for me, Phil Hutchison, or you can look for Lantern Development. You can find me online. I've got a website. It's just a basic shop window, but inquiries at lanterndevelopment.com will get you to me. or you can look for me on Google. Normally the bloke looking like a ninja or a milk tray advert in black will be the ones that will get you where you want to. But yeah, come find me. It's always nice to have a chat, even if it's just helping people understand. But yeah, that's where I am. Brilliant.
Thank you. Thank you for talking to us today. And I'm sure our audience will go away, feeling they'll have related to a lot of what you've been talking about today. It is a huge problem really in our stressed state that we live in now. But that is the end of part 3 in our 3-part series. And next week we'll have another guest. I've forgotten who's coming on now. But anyway, make sure to tune in, and all the details about Phil will be in the show notes. Add your comments, ask any questions to do with any of our guests actually, and I'll try and get the questions to the guests, and we'll try and answer any questions that you guys have. And I look forward to seeing you all next week.